Are you ready to get real? Welcome to real estate, the world's loneliest career, where you're always out of balance, unfulfilled, the role models are fake, the numbers unattainable, and you're just supposed to be and do it all. Join self-made millionaire real estate agents, wives, moms, and business owners as we level up, learn from special guests, and elevate and disrupt an entire industry through real education our way.
That was awesome.
For everyone watching, we're putting our intro in the beginning so that Lindsay doesn't have to spend 10,000 hours a week editing videos. So that's where we're at. Yay! We have a very special guest with us today, guys. We're so excited. Joe Herrera is here with us. He is out of Las Vegas, and he will tell us some of his story, but he's one of the top team leaders in the country, top agents in the country. Very influential and powerful and doing all kinds of things. And there's some weird stuff coming in real estate right now. So we're excited to get Joe's perspective on that today. But tell us, if you wouldn't mind, to start, just where the real estate journey came from for you, how you ended up with such an amazing, powerful team. How did that journey come to pass?
So it's a little bit unique and uncomfortable. But the reality is my growing up in Vegas, historically, when I get into my family history, my family's full of addiction. So Irish immigrants, Mexican immigrants, lots of alcoholism, which isn't necessarily how most of these stories start. But my grandfather on my mother's side was one of the earliest cartoonists for Disney. Like, they were at July 17th, 1955, they were at Disneyland. The guy lived, I think, till 1995, 96. I never met him because he left when my mom was a kid. So the reason this is relevant is because when my dad moved my family to Nevada, I was born in Carson City. Obviously, Nevada is not the best place to live if you struggle with addiction. And so my mom struggled with gambling addiction. And so it manifested itself in my life in a couple of different ways, one of which was I just home discipline at home was not a thing. My dad was trying to work hard to provide, not just for our family, but also to make up for whatever losses were happening to the local gaming establishments. And so doing homework and getting good grades was never part of my lifestyle. So I graduated high school barely with like a 1.6 GPA. So real estate became one of two options for me, because I knew that I was good with, I knew I was a good salesperson. I knew that I was probably going to make my living with my mind, mouth, not with my hands, because I've just never been a hard labor guy. And so I actually spent 2 years as a missionary. And so it was like I learned how to communicate with people, and I saw different lifestyles and what worked and what didn't. It was a highly influential period of my life. And I came home and I knew some great real estate agents. I knew some great insurance. So when I came home from, and it was time to not necessarily go to college because my GPA would have required a lot of hard work, I knew I wanted to make a lot of money. Like, I never wanted my kids to want, I didn't want them to ever need. Like, I think wanting is a good thing, but I never wanted them to need. And so I knew that I needed to make a lot of money in order so that they had the emotional support they needed from a mom, the emotional support they needed from a dad, the financial support they needed from both parents. And so it was real estate or insurance. And I think at the time I was 21, I was highly attracted to the big check. So I chose real estate. I have two brothers-in-law that are in insurance, funny enough, and I've always been jealous of their monthly residual income.
Yes.
So anyways, that was kind of my origin story into real estate. Was I knew a guy, so I got my real estate license, funny enough, and I was recruited by a construction company. They wanted me to sell overhead garage storage systems. So if you've ever been in a garage and somebody has, the guy that patented and built those was here in Las Vegas. They were called High Loft. And so I was the local rep and distributor for High Loft, meaning I would go knock doors and ask people if they wanted to buy overhead garage storage systems. So I had my real estate license, but I needed to make money. and I was working that job, and I showed up, and there was a guy by the name of Brent Phillips, a giant in the Las Vegas real estate industry. And I installed his deal and I sold him units and all this stuff. And at the end of it, he said to me, like, hey, Joe, you're a really good salesperson. Why on earth are you selling such a cheap product? And I was like, what do you mean? It's like, if you're going to sell something, go sell a house for, at the time, like 300,000. Go sell an airplane, like sell something that you could actually make some real money. So anyways, that was kind of I got into real estate. Then I pivoted back into construction for about a year. And then that Brent Phillips kind of whipped me right back into real estate by like, hey, you're a good salesperson. Stop selling something so cheap.
I love your story for two reasons. Number one, because what we're going to talk about today is what's coming up that's hard. And you're talking about being a person that has dealt with adversity. So what we're going to talk about today is coming adversity. But also, Angela and I have a theory, and we've talked about this for so long on this show, that we believe that anyone who achieves any moderate to high level of success in life comes from some type of pain or trauma. And we don't know why it manifests itself as hyper success to the point where sometimes like people actually destroy their own lives with it. But you know, it really seems to be, you know, as like a team leader myself, Angela owns a brokerage. Like we've always said, you can train anyone to do any skill, but what you can't train is drive and hunger. And so we really feel like that drive and hunger comes from uber successful people who've been through rough stuff. So to anyone who's out there in the world right now going through rough stuff, you know, it's like a lot of times if you can turn it around positively, it becomes a big building block for success, I think.
Yeah, I think.
Well, and I think one thing that's interesting.
Sorry, I think the common thing is, you know, when you go through something that's so negative, you have two choices. You can either learn from it and grow, or let it consume you and spiral out of control. And I think for personality types like ours, failure and spiraling out of control is not ever an option. So we figure out how to thrive.
I think that that's 100% true. I also think there's a little bit of a misnomer that, like, I know I took a lot of heat with my children because my kids have been on 12 Disney cruises. My son, when he turned 16, I bought him a truck. They don't necessarily want, I don't believe my children are spoiled, but also when my kid turned 16, he ran his own car wash business and made like $8,000 in 2 months. So it taught me, like, coming from nothing is a massive challenge. Mm-hmm. Coming from something is a massive challenge. Like, it's both ways, right? Mm-hmm. So it's almost like our world is pre-programmed to think that every kid that comes from the ghetto is going to be a rock star and every kid that comes from wealth is going to be a drug addict. And the reality is it's two sides to the same coin. Hard. I inherited nothing. I have nothing growing up. A hardworking dad. I love him. But then my son he just got his assignment. He's going to be in Africa for 2 years. It's going to be awesome. And then he's going to come home and he just wants to have what dad has. I'm like, bro, like, no offense. I'm not the greatest guy in the world. I cast a decent sized shadow. That's going to be your challenge, is living up to the expectation. So it's like, that's the sucky thing. And probably the awesome thing is success is hard to follow. Failure is hard to climb out of. And so it's like, I don't know that there is such a thing as like they were handed a silver spoon and they really had an easy time with it, or, you know, they were eating with their hands and they had an easy time with it. It's almost like, to Lindsay's point, like, hard isn't a choice. It just, that's the payment for success, I think.
Angela, yeah, I mean, we talk about this a lot. In fact, I had a conversation with my son about this on Saturday. He turns 12 in 2 weeks and he wants a mountain bike. And I mean, it's like a mountain bike, like 40-year-old men on the trails bike with this ridiculous mountain bike. And it's, you know, I'm the same way. Angela's the same way. We came from really nothing, families we love, but nothing also. And, you know, I refuse to raise a brat. Like, I'm not going to do it. And I was working until, you know, midnight last night, and he got up and was walking around and saw me working. And I hope that teaches him something. Angela Angela started a business with her daughter, same kind of as your son. So yeah, I mean, I think we're trying all of our best to.
We're trying to give them the good qualities of us without them getting all the bad qualities, which is not easy.
No.
My daughter wants to go to culinary school, which is very expensive. She's 14, so we started a company that does charcuterie boards because that's like all the rage right now because everybody that we grew up with likes Lunchables. So she makes a ton. She makes a killing making meat and cheese trays for people.
And goes to college. It's awesome.
Yeah, pays for her college, so.
All right. So in the last, so most of the time for our show, we kind of take our topics from like, you know, the big Facebook groups and conversations that people are having out there in the world, because obviously that's what's on everyone's minds and that's what everyone wants to talk about. And about a month and a half ago, Angela and I came on the show. We got laughed at, which has happened to us multiple times, by the way, for saying that a shift was coming, you know, and everyone was like, ha, 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 what are you talking about? You know, I wrote a $300,000 over ask offer this weekend and didn't get it. There's no shift. Well, you know, here we are a month and a half later. Shifting is starting to happen. So we've been talking about that the last couple weeks as far as how to, you know, pivot business wise and expectations wise with your clients and all that jazz. But, you know, today I would love to listen to Joe talk a little bit about what's it going to take to survive what's coming. And listen, we don't know what's coming, guys. We have recession PTSD. I was in the business before the recession. So was Angela. We don't walk around all day long going, oh my God, a crash is coming. Oh my God, a crash is coming. You know, so we have a little PTSD from it. People don't really understand that the price of housing isn't the only indicator that causes a crash. People also don't understand that to go from where we are right now to an actual crash, it would be so severe, it would be very difficult, but there are changes coming without a doubt. And NAR says that 83% of all agents that are licensed right now have been in the business less than 3 years. So they don't know what's coming. So Joe, what do we need? How do we prepare? How do we protect ourselves? How do we make sure we're aligned with the right people to make, some people think the sky is falling. Like literally yesterday, one of my friends was like, I'm selling everything. I'm moving to Mexico. This is an extremely smart man, like worth multi-millions of dollars. I'm offloading everything. I'm moving to Mexico. You know, the shit's going to hit the fan. Like we're out of here. I'm selling all my companies. You know, and then some people think it's just going to be a little baby bump. We don't know, but what happens? How do we start to prepare?
Great topic. I lived through the Great Recession myself. I was at the time licensed. I got licensed in 2001. So I was 5 years into the industry when we felt it first. All of my friends that were doctors and lawyers were like, dude, the economy's great. What are you talking about? And we were like, we can't put a house in escrow. Couple of thoughts. The challenge that I see is there are three. I gave a talk last week in Utah. So there's 3 I's at play, right? Number one, inventory. It's not going to magically appear from somewhere. So the funny thing about these 3 principles that I'm going to talk about, they all usually have adverse effects on each other. So in a low inventory market, you typically will have appreciation. But the second I, which is raising interest rates, usually drive down demand. Mm-hmm. So that should solve the inventory problem, but it's impossible to solve it because we have somewhere between a 2 to 3 million unit housing shortage. And so you would think with rising interest rates, that would mean falling real estate values. The third I, and then I'll get into detail on each of these, is inflation. In an inflation-based market, you would think that rising interest rates is set to cool inflation, but inflation's not stopping. So it's like we've got these 3 tornadoes all spinning at each other, and I am excited. I'm stoked for the future. I'm very, very confident because I believe no matter what happens, whatever the next recession is, I believe housing will be a safe harbor and not a sinking ship. Like I saw Grant Cardone talking about NFTs and, you know, crypto and all this fun stuff. And he's like, I don't know that a picture of a monkey is going to be worth $10 million in the coming economy, but I know that that building is still going to be there.
Right.
And so he was just talking about the validity of housing. But if you think about it, like I know in Las Vegas, we have an issue with housing. There's just not enough houses. So when the economy recesses, because it will, it's impossible for the economy to infinitely grow. So when it recesses, I believe people will look for tangible assets that they can rely on for financial stability. So I think there's some value in classic cars.
Mm-hmm.
I believe there's some value in boats. Like I think people are going to go like, while affording a boat may be a challenge because of inflation and all that fun stuff, it's still a tangible asset. I'm not saying I'm out on crypto. I'm not saying I'm out on NFTs. What I'm saying is, because there is a shortage of houses and because inflation is causing rents to go through the roof, I think the solution to all three of these problems, the solution to the future economy, is twofold. It's collaboration and it's value. Because when individuals have to make a decision between cost and value, cost will always win when there's no value present, but value will always win over cost. If you as a real estate professional are truly providing value to your customers, to your clients, to banks in an REO market, to asset management companies in an REO and short sale market, if you are an individual that brings value to the conversation, you will succeed. So then the deep question we have to ask ourselves, and this is, Lindsay, you and I have had a lot of talks around this, is like the race to the bottom cost. And this has two factors. Number one, we as real estate professionals very much despise the client who is only obsessed with cost.
Mm-hmm.
We build presentations around it. We talk about it ad nauseum. Taylor and I, there's a big in Vegas, there's a big listing company that does everything for they advertise 1%. And then we ran that model, like looking at, we're like, we'd have to 4 to 5x our productivity to keep our profitability at the same amount. So we'd be wearing out our staff, yada, 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 right? So then we got to that fork in the road and we chose value over cost. We're like, how about we just create immense value in our clients' lives? Now, what's interesting though, is in our industry, we as agents are hypocritical about it. Mm-hmm. And if you really want to run this down, think about this. We as real estate professionals claim to provide value to our clients at a cost. However, with our brokerage relationships, we are unwilling to accept value over cost. So it's like, let me provide great value to my clients and they better choose value. But then in my brokerage relationship, let me just go hang my license with some guy working out of his garage that'll only charge me $50 for a transaction fee. And it's like, hold on a second, right? And this comes to teams, this comes to coaching and mentoring, this comes to collaboration. Like in my life, I choose value over cost, right? Like I fly on airlines that I believe bring me value. Could I get to Colorado cheaper on Spirit than I can on Delta? Probably, but
eventually.
Also it's going to be a very uncomfortable journey. So I think the solution to the 3 I's exists in the bringing of value and the obsession of collaboration. Like, I don't know everything, but I know Lindsay. I don't know everything, but I know Spring. I don't know everything, but I know Amy Youngren. Like, so for me, it's not necessarily a function of going. For years as independent brokerage owners, I mean, we were an island. It was us against the world. We
talk about the island all the time on the show. Yes,
and I've pivoted to say, who can I collaborate with? Because when a coming economy, I may figure something out, and Lindsay's going to hit me up and say, Joe, I'm struggling with this, yada yada yada. And I'm like, oh, Lindsay, here's the solution, right? Or vice versa. So agent collaboration is so freaking important to me, because when the last tough economy hit, Taylor and I were on an island. Like we were.
For everyone that's listening, just so you know, Taylor is Joe's business partner in their team. Just so everyone knows.
Right.
Yes, just
Right.
business friendly.
So we were sitting on an island, and luckily we had a lender with Bank of America throw us a bone and connect us with asset management companies. And luckily Taylor's family, like through marriage, worked for the city of Las Vegas when the neighborhood stabilization program came out. Like literally, that's why we still exist, is because while we weren't collaborating with other agents, we at least had a couple of life rafts come our way. So anyways, I think obsessing over value and obsessing over collaboration is the safest and most confident way for us as real estate professionals to move forward, regardless of what the economy does.
So what are some ways that agents can provide value other than reducing their commission? Because that is not value, like we just discussed.
That's not value. That's race to the bottom cost.
And you can only reduce it so much
Mm-hmm.
before you're broke,
Sure.
or out of a job. So that's really not ever going to be the right answer. At least
That model's so weird to me because, by the way, if you're listening in general and you have questions or comments, we love when you guys interact with us. So throw up something in the comments. But every time the market is like a bull market, every time everyone looks like a genius and the market is so great, we see all these companies pop up and they're 1%, 0%. Like we even have a big one in Denver right now that's like, we'll list your house for free if you just buy with us, right? But the second that things shift and change, as we talk to death on the show here about Zillow, about Opendoor, those companies typically disperse and go away because they're not profitable. They can't do it.
Yeah.
I don't understand, like you said, the race to the bottom, Joe, but yeah, like what reducing your commission is not value. Let's get straight on that.
Because anybody can do it.
I think 100%. And I think to your question, twofold. I think providing value has a cost.
Mm-hmm.
So my brother-in-law, when the Strip shut down, he was a Jabberwocky. If you guys have ever seen the show, the guys with the white masks that dance and stuff, super talented. He wanted to become a realtor. It took us about 2 weeks of him trying to be a realtor. He runs the AV for his church. And I was like, bro, your video content is fire. And he runs a dance studio as well. And I was like, why don't you just start doing that for us? So to point number one, in order for me to provide value, I cannot be cheap myself. Again, agents, stop being hypocritical. You can't go like, hey, Mr. Home Seller, I want you to choose value over cost. And then I'm going to be freaking cheap and take pictures with my iPhone. Right? Like in order to provide value, you have to spend money. So for us on the seller side, we invest thousands of dollars into our listings. We do drone videos, we do YouTube videos, we promote our homes through social media and get thousands and thousands of eyeballs. And so part of it is cost. Part of it is in order to provide value, you have to be willing to spend some money. And number two, in order to provide value, you have to be educated. So like if I'm going to provide value to you as a home seller, I cannot not show you the statistics of the cost of going cheap, right? I can't just say, hey, my commission rate's this, those guys suck. It doesn't work that way. The way it has to work is I have to say, hey, here is the 57-point plan I have for selling your home. Here is my financial investment in your home. And because of this, I want you to understand how this is going to affect your bottom line, because statistically speaking, people who use a professional real estate agent who invest in their homes the way I do have a 6% greater rate of return. So now the 5%, whatever the situation is, commission you are paying in total to buyer and seller agent, you're actually 1% ahead of the game than you would be to sell for free with someone who has no financial interest and no financial investment in your property. So it's like, in order to provide value, you have to equal parts educate yourself and equal parts invest. And this isn't just in clients. This becomes our agent relationships as well. When we bring agents into our world, either in a collaboration relationship or in a team relationship, we're very specific with them to say, here's my investment in you. Like, here's how I'm going to bring value into your world as a member of my team. We're going to give you 30 leads a month at a cost of $200 a piece. We're going to give you mentorship and coaching and training. We're going to give you transaction management, yada, yada, yada. So we build this package around an agent to say, when you join our team, you are on a split, so it has a cost. But let me tell you how that cost turns into a massive value. Now, if I fail to deliver on that, then my agents will always choose cost. So it requires a financial investment in them, but then it also requires an educational investment. Like every Monday morning, I've got to give an hour-long training to my agents here in Vegas, and we currently have 6 satellite teams in other states, and they zoom into it. And so it's like, I better freaking bring it, and I can't just show up and say, work harder. It doesn't work. So I have to educate myself in order to provide value to them, and I have to spend money in them in order to provide value to them. And ultimately, it's all in an attempt that when time gets hard and my agents, just like clients, face a fork in the road between cost and value, my investment in them should protect the fact that they would always choose value if I'm doing it right.
I literally hope everyone goes back, rewinds, and watches what he just said about defending his commission and takes notes on it, and then practice that as a script and use it, because that's probably one of the best commission defenses I've ever heard. So thank you for that. Yeah, I mean, I think everyone, I don't know where the commission reducing stuff comes from. I think it comes from we all do it. NAR has statistics on it. They say that 60% of all real estate transactions, like over the last 3 years, have been discounted on some level, right? So the killers do it because they want to kill and they're willing to do it to kill. But a lot of agents do it at the beginning of their career because they're unsure of what their value proposition is.
Right.
And so they don't feel confident enough to walk in and own a commission. So I love your piece about education, right? You gotta get that confidence from somewhere right out the gate so that you can go in there and have that commission conversation.
Well, I had a funny conversation this weekend at my daughter's volleyball tournament. An individual that I've known for a long time is in the tech industry. And so he asked about Zillow offers, and then he just said, man, you got to look at Homey, which I don't know if Homey's in Colorado, but
they just came here. Yes. Mm-hmm.
And then you've got to look at Open Door and OfferPad and all these. And what's funny is that the outsider thinks that this is a new business model.
Right.
Because the outsider or new agents don't remember help you sell.
Yes.
They don't remember
to sell. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. They don't remember that discounted commission options is not in itself a disease. It is the symptom of a disease, which is called a hyper seller market.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So they only exist because they can feast on a market in which, if uneducated agents don't understand what's going on, they can walk into any home and go, Lindsay, I'll sell your house for $100. I'm going to put it on the MLS. No one has to do anything. I'm going to snap a few pictures with my phone and it's done. And an uneducated agent doesn't have a defense for it. They don't say, well, Mr. So-and-so, let me ask you this. This is the largest financial transaction you'll ever make. So as far as surgery is concerned, this is like heart surgery on your finances. So if you have heart surgery, are you just going to literally go hey, who's willing to cut me open the cheapest? That's freaking crazy. If you're going to be cheap when you sell your lawnmower. Don't be cheap when you sell your largest financial asset of all time.
We always say I'm in trouble, right? Let's say I did something I robbed a bank. Oops.
Right.
Am I going to go on Google and Google, what is the crappiest lawyer within a 5-mile range of me? No, I'm going to go on Google and I'm going to go, Google, find me the lawyer that eats other lawyers for lunch because I'm in trouble and I need help. But the public doesn't, and this goes, we talk about this on the show all the time too. I think that we have made a massive mistake as an industry in training and coaching real estate agents over all these decades as salespeople. We are salespeople, and that is the truth. But we're also fiduciaries, and we are so much more than just someone who sells a product. We also legally, represent our clients in most states. If you're not an attorney state, we're practicing law without a license. And to me, you know, in a market like you just said, where a monkey with one hand can list a property for $100, you have to learn that your value is not just put a sign in the yard and sell the house. You have to go back to all the other pieces that make you valuable to the client besides just selling and marketing a home, because in the absence of value, cost is an issue. And right now the value is not, I can sell your house, or I can sell your house for a whole bunch of money.
Right.
Anyone can do that.
Well, so Taylor and I had this fun experience where we took our wives, we took actually our whole team down to Bora Bora. It was our rewards trip, and it was awesome. He set up the tour. Okay. It was like, we're at Bora Bora. This guy's picking us up at the Conrad in a boat. It was awesome. The week before that, I gave a training to our team in which I talked about the necessity for us as real estate professionals to be like consigliaries, right? For us to be tour guides. Like when somebody hires us, they don't want to hear what I heard from the guy we hopped on the boat in Bora Bora. We get on the boat with our wives in the most beautiful location on earth. And this guy freaking says to us, so what do you guys want to do? I was like, I looked at Taylor, I was like, bro, I just gave this training to our whole freaking team. I was so upset because I don't know what I want to do. You show me. What's next? Where are we going? What I wanted to do is get in and go, all right, first we're going to go see sharks. Second, we're going to go see manta rays. The third thing, I'm going to cut open this pineapple and I'm going to put it in some fruit juice for you. Like that was what I wanted from this guy. And instead I got, where do you want to go? Our industry is freaking obsessed. Our agents struggle with their confidence. And if you think about it this way, what I love so much about what you guys are doing, what I love so much about the Real Home Girls, is that the most competent group of agents I know on earth is our female agent core. They are very competent. The challenge is the most confident group of agents on earth are middle-aged white men like me. It's like the worst. It's like, who cares? Like, there are so many more competent agents than guys like me. I mean, that are highly skilled, highly able, highly caring, highly driven, but then their confidence is the part that they lack. And so what I love so much about what you guys are doing is you're instilling confidence in the most competent segment of our population, which is the hardcore gangster female agents who aren't messing around, who take this serious, who respect their craft, but then they and I'm not trying to segment the group, but by and large, like Battle of the Brokers. Okay. So Inman comes to Vegas, Battle of the Brokers happens. There are 28 individuals up on stage, which was literally 27 guys that look like me, like from KW, EXP, all these brokerages, right? Century 21. There was 27 guys that looked like me.
Nancy says, gang. Yep.
And then there was one girl right in the middle, beautiful, competent Spring Benson. And I was sitting with the CEO of our company. I looked up there and I said, bro, that's our advantage right there. Because every other company was like, hey, we're going to Battle of the Brokerages in Vegas. Let's send a middle-aged white guy. Every other company. And Real said, actually, let's send Spring Benson up there.
Do you know what I heard? This is crazy. So when Angela and I were just blessed to speak at an amazing women's abundance conference in Kansas City. And one of the other speakers said 68% of all real estate agents are women, but only 12% of them have ever been on a stage, been a coach, or been in a leadership position. And I was like, wow, that's very interesting to me.
Well, and to be even more uncomfortable. Yeah, to be even more uncomfortable, we like to blame middle-aged white men for that. The reality is we need strong women like you guys to stand up and go, screw this, put me on stage, right? And that's what we need. And so everyone likes to blame the corporate leadership for not putting them on stage. But the reality is what we really need is strong, competent women to go, you know what, screw this. If he could do it, I could do it. Get up on stage. And that's why I'm all in on Lindsay. That's why I'm all in on Spring. That's why I'm all in on Amy Younger. That's why, like, in my world of collaboration, there are very few guys that look and act like me. It's strong, powerful women that I'm like, dude, I want to roll with her. Like, I'm going to follow her, let her lead the way. But ultimately, as much as we want to blame corporate, it's you guys standing up and going like, hey, put us up on stage. I want to talk about this.
What's really funny,
make a difference.
And so our listeners, they run the board, right? Some of them are brand new licensed. We have listeners that don't even have a license yet. For some reason, we've been in the top 20 on the charts for the last 2 months in Portugal. I have zero idea who's listening in Portugal, but thank you. But so, I want people that are listening that are newer in their career too, though, to hear that they're powerful and they have value, because someone said something to me last night. I was talking to my friend Steve, and it blew my mind, and I've noodled on it all night and all morning today. We were talking about comparison, and the fact that like none of us, the two of us, a lot of us, Angela and I have had these conversations, feel like we don't have the right to be in rooms. We don't have the right to ask to be in bigger places. We don't have the right to speak on a stage because what have we done? We've got Joe Herrera's who own the earth, and like, what have we done? And his point to me was like, every single person has a story, and every single person has a niche, and every single person is talented, and every single person deserves to get out there and tell it. And it's true. Like, we have listeners who, like I was just talking to a girl who listens to our show the other day, and she's like, my business sucks. And I was like, well, what's going on? And she was like, well, I mean, I only made $500,000 last year, but I went to Disneyland 12 times. And I was like, what? Like, who wouldn't go? I would pay money to go listen to someone talk about how to work 20 hours a week, make $500,000 a year, and go to Disneyland 12 times in a year. Right. Yeah. So like, I do think that this industry, it can be really toxic, like really toxic. Because you look at these people on the podcasts and on the shows and, up on the stage and all this stuff. But, every one of us has something that we are immensely talented in, and that story it needs to be told too.
I think it comes down to the mentality of our industry that's all driven based on production and not based on freedom,
or money.
I don't care. I don't want to be that person that makes $10 million a year. I really don't. I'm happy. I have plenty for me, and I have, a really full table. And so I give what I have extra to everybody else. So how much more do I have to give? Like, I'm okay with doing the production that I'm doing. And why isn't that celebrated? I don't understand why being happy with what you're doing isn't enough. And I think that's a problem in our industry, that I don't know how you correct that kind of thing, that you're only given awards based on if you're the number one best top selling realtor. Who cares?
I think it's the collaboration. No, you're right. And I think, again, back to Joe's point about like the collaboration and the tribe that you find yourself in, I think is so important for your mental health. And I think it's going to be even more important as we go through shifting and weird stuff, because you have to be in a tribe in which you're celebrated, you're pushed, you're loved on, and all these agents are out on the island. Like, that was the whole point of our show. It's like, we were sick of being on the island. We know everyone else is out there too. When things get weird, like, you have to find a tribe to attach to that's going to take care of you, regardless of what you're doing.
Yeah. So here's my 2 thoughts on this. They both revolve around my kids. So I have 2 kids. I have 4 kids, 2 girls and 2 boys. My primary role as a father has been to humble my sons and instill confidence in my daughters. Not from a programmatic issue, just from a nature. Like, my daughters are way better than my sons at everything. But my sons, literally, they think they're the greatest thing ever.
They have all the confidence, yes.
And so, like, we could talk about nature versus nurture, but I had this moment with my daughter. This will take about 30 seconds to tell. So my son, his freshman year of high school, was so uncomfortable with his body that when he was playing volleyball, he would pull his shirt away from his body, like as they were getting ready for a play, because he felt like it was hugging his body. Mm-hmm. Well, that summer, my wife and I discovered intermittent fasting. Mm-hmm. So we taught him, like, dude, you don't have to really even control what you eat. Just just make sure you eat whatever you want, but do it in like an 8-hour window, and then allow yourself time to rest, right? So he lost all this weight, became incredibly confident, and probably too much so. But what we didn't understand was the effect it would have on our daughter. So at this time, our son is 15, our daughter's 13. One night, I came into her room and she was upset. And I said, Evelyn, what's wrong? And she just said, like, I'm so tired of hearing about how proud you guys are of Porter. And I was like, crap. So I said, well, tell me what your thoughts are. And she's like, I just don't feel confident. And so at that moment, this principle came into my mind, which I believe was divine, in which I shared with her. I said, well, tell me where you are confident. And because she had worked for us that summer, she didn't spend $1 that she made with us. She said, well, I feel like I'm really good with money. And I said, well, why do you feel like you're so good with money? She said, because I'm disciplined. And then I tied the two principles together. And I said, well, so let me get this straight. You're disciplined with money. You're disciplined with your friendships. You stay out of girl drama. Like, you're killing it in all these areas. What area do you feel the least confident in? And she said, I feel like I'm not confident, like, with my body. And I said, well, how disciplined are you? Like, this is a hard thing for a dad to say to his 13-year-old daughter. Not necessarily like, you need to diet. It wasn't you need to diet. It was, how disciplined are you? Because the important thing from my eyes, she was the most beautiful girl on earth. But I couldn't give her my eyes. So what I had to help her understand is, if you exercise discipline, not diet, not, harm yourself, but if you just say, I'm going to be disciplined in this one area, then you will gain confidence in that area. She is now a pillar of self-confidence, almost to an annoying part. We're like, girl, you need to back it down a little bit, right? And so the principle there is, if you are disciplined in something, allow it to feed your confidence. If you struggle in confidence in any area, finances, your listing presentation, agent attraction, like, if you struggle with confidence in a principle, the number one thing you could do is build discipline around it. And by nature, the laws of the universe, whatever you want to call it, you will start gaining confidence in that area you exercise discipline. And it is impossible to break that rule, I think, especially like with my daughters, because they're so humble that if they're not exercising, they almost feel it more than men. Men will fake it. It's very hard for my daughters to fake it. If they need confidence in something, it has to come from discipline. And like, I can't give it to them. They have to choose for themselves. And so my daughter's always the one that's saying, hey, Dad, let's do a no sugar challenge. Or, hey, Dad, let's whatever. She probably, just like all of us, wants the quick and easy. But ever since she was 13, she's chosen the longer hard. And I think it's really benefited her life. And it just taught me a lot about that. Guys will kind of pretend. My daughters can't pretend. They are truth.
So I have a quick story and question around that type of thing. So my kids are 13 and 14. I have a boy and a girl, Jackson and Mackenzie. We were probably 6 years ago, we went to Old Navy to get them like some school clothes. And my son said he observed this on his own 5 years ago, which was shocking to me that he observed anything, honestly, pertaining to this. But he's like, why is it that all the girls' shirts have words on it like girl power and you can hustle, you can do it, and the boys' shirts just have pictures on them? Why is that? He's like, why do you have to be told that you're good or that you're doing good? And I thought about that, and I'm like, as adults, who do you see wearing those type of shirts? It's women. Men are never wearing that. So why do we feel like we have to, like, is it like something that we're subconsciously trying to like remind ourselves that like we're enough and we have to wear a shirt that we can see in the mirror that tells us that or reminds us of that? Like, why is that? And why are, like, if my son can see it, like everybody can see it, right? Like, where do you think that comes from? Why do you think we have to do that kind of thing?
I think it goes. Well, so I've got two theories on it. I think it's happened. I think by nature, women are just better. Like I think my wife is a better human being. Her natural instincts are better. I think my daughters naturally care and love easier. I think, but part number two is I think some of it comes from the nurture of thousands and thousands of years of male physical dominance in certain areas that have led to us to like our ancestors from 2000 years ago, and so I think we're now entering this world where it's no longer physical dominance that wins. It's like mental dominance and discipline that wins the day. And so I actually think this, for your listeners, is their greatest advantage in the real estate space, is if they can get themselves into a mind space of confidence. Like I'm annoyed, to be honest with you, with two types of people. Number one, people with British accents, and number two, confident women. And I'm not annoyed with them because I don't like them. I'm annoyed with them because I cannot compete with them. Like when somebody says something with a British accent, people are like, oh yeah, whatever he says is great. I'm like, he's just saying the same thing I'm saying, but with a British accent. And when you get that confident woman, and Spring Benson is a wonderful example of it. I don't know that what she says is that much better than what I say, but because it's coming from her in a confident way, she delivers it. People are all of my agents are like, holy crap, Spring Benson just blew my mind. Like she said the same thing I say all the time, but because it came from her in a position of confidence, I honestly believe this is the female entrepreneur's greatest advantage if they can get themselves into that confidence space, because all of a sudden people are going to like, what? I'm going to follow her. Right. Mm-hmm. And I just think, I think it's part nature, part nurture, but it's all advantage. Like if I'm a female entrepreneur, I figure my crap out to the point to where I have so much confidence that it's such a magnet. Like people want they want to be led by a strong female entrepreneur. I've seen it time and time again. I just don't know why. Like I have to struggle for competence. Like when we hire a male agent, they're like, I'll blow this freaking thing up. And then I'm like, well, bro, you don't even know what you're saying. Mm-hmm. And then we hire brand new female agents, and they study and they learn and they evaluate and they have compassion. And then with them, we're like, hey, you can do this. And it's almost like, oh, really? I can? I'm like, you know so much more than he does, right? She's like, well, he sounds so confident. And I'm like, because he's faking it. So anyways, yeah. I think there's so much power and so much opportunity that exists for the female entrepreneur to be confident, because I promise you, every single one of your listeners is competent. They know what they're doing. They care more than I do. They're more educated in a lot of instances than I am. And if I could give my daughters, if I could give the female entrepreneur anything, it would just be confidence. Like if you have the confidence, you're gonna rule the world.
This is a very beautiful conversation. Thanks for going so deep with us on that. That was very profound for me with your daughter, like very, very profound. And I think it goes back to the whole conversation that we're having, which is changes are coming. And so
that's the great thing about a shifting market is you get the choice to change who you are as an agent if you want. You can evolve and change and, bring more value. And this is the best time to do that kind of thing and to try that stuff out and see what works for you because it's changing. Instead of just doing what you were doing before, that's not going to be enough. You're going to have to change what you're doing and level up your experience that you're giving to your clients. Otherwise, you're just not going to be providing the value anymore. So you're going to have to take it in your wallet, which is never a good place to take it.
Well, the good news is competence will win the day. Competence. If that person can develop confidence. Mm-hmm. And so it's like, I think what I'm most excited about for my collaboration partners, specifically my female collaboration partners, is they are going to win the future real estate market. My job is purely to help them understand that and to be confident around it, because we've got, and I hopefully this isn't a sexist conversation, but like we have so many guys that right now are killing it in real estate, but as soon as like a challenge comes, they're going to go, I'm going to go start a construction company, or I'm going to move on to the next thing. But for our competent, knowledgeable, educated, like caring female agents, they will win the day. They will win the next decade. Your job, my job, is to help them to understand that and to have the confidence around it, because then there's just going to be no stopping them.
Well, and they will win, because what is the one thing that technology, disruption, all of these companies are trying to do, to take from us? What is the one thing that they can't take from us? This is a relationship business, and women naturally are the ones that, like, you will never take my clients from me, never, because of that relationship. And same with Angela, and same with probably most of our listeners. So I think if you're one of those, like, to circle back to the whole beginning, if you're one of those agents who's watching the news, who's sitting in these Facebook groups, who's panicking about what's coming, who's thinking that the sky is falling, who hasn't been in the business that long, who thinks they can't survive a shift, who thinks they can't survive a crash, in order to build the confidence, listen really deeply to what Joe said and go get disciplined. Go get disciplined right now in what you need to get through that, and to be confident enough to not be in scarcity and fear, because there's rampant scarcity and fear right now. So whether it's reading about short sales and REO, if that's coming, whether it's improving your listing presentation, books on confidence in general, how to speak to people, whatever it is, get in tribes, get in masterminds, get coaching, just get in discipline, because like he said, that's what builds confidence, and that's what's going to carry you through. The only thing that crushes an agent's career is fear. And I've seen it again and again and again and again. 82% NAR says of all agents fail after a year or two. It's not because they're not the next crop of the most genius real estate agents in the world. It's either they don't have their money right, which is discipline, or they haven't studied enough, they're not educated enough, or they're afraid and they can't compete.
And I think we have to get better at telling people how good we are and what we do for our clients. We need to get better at telling people and getting it out to the public than we are, because we're just terrible at it. That's where the confidence comes in. Like, it's not enough for you to just do those awesome things for people. Like, you need to tell somebody about it so that you can help more people. And you need to encourage your clients to tell more people about how awesome their experience was with you and how different it is and the value that you add. Like, the better you are at telling your story, the more clients are going to flock to you. Absolutely. We're just really bad at telling our story.
Because we're not confident.
Because it's a lack of confidence. The other telltale sign, and then I've got to get going here soon. If you make content for clients, so every time you make a piece of content, you have to make sure you understand your intended audience. But think about it this way: if you are telling your story with the intended audience to be clients, potential buyers and sellers, and real estate agents blow you up with, man, this is awesome, you've done something wrong. And conversely, if you're doing agent attraction, which is kind of like my core business right now, if you're doing agent attraction and it's consumers that are like, hey, seems like you're blowing it up, great job, so you're probably too busy for me, you're doing it wrong. And so you have to pay very close attention when you build content to make sure that if you have agent-centric content, you're building a coaching program, your agent attraction, whatever, if you're getting traction with your intended audience, that's a good sign. If you're getting traction with the opposite audience, that's actually bad. We have an agent in our marketplace. I love her. She's a good friend. I've been to the dunes and to the lake with her and seen her working 3 phones at once. Like, she's a killer. However, what she puts out on social is pictures of herself in leather pants walking a Maserati, like literally with a leash. Now, I know that people are like, dang girl, you're killing it, right? The problem I have with it is I don't believe that she is what she's portraying. She's an absolute killer. I've seen her with jammies on and no makeup and her hair in a bun, working 3 phones, doing deals. But then for some reason, what she puts out to the marketplace is, here I am on the top of the strip, champagne and caviar and like living this glamorous lifestyle. Real estate agents probably freaking love it. They're like, oh my gosh, boss lady, right? She's killing it. Consumers are going like, why would you walking a Maserati have anything to do with helping me like liquidate my properties or find something good, right? And so like, while she's getting traction,
really, because you can afford that Maserati, right? Or whatever it is, yeah.
While she's getting traction, I believe the traction goes toward admiration or, you know, or whatever that is. But I guess my 2 cents on marketing is, to your point, all of us are probably so much better than the story we tell. We just have to be careful that we don't get caught up in, like, if you watch something an agent does and like, holy crap, they're killing it, I need to do that. You're probably admiring the wrong thing. What you should be doing is connecting with your customers. Call your clients, previous clients, and go, hey, need to pick your brain for a second. I want to make a video on how the experience was of you selling your home and why you loved it.
Oh, Joe froze.
He's making a funny face too.
Lovely face. Oh, Joe, I think we lost you. Your video froze.
Oh, he's back. He's
You back? Oh, there you are.
I'm back.
For a second. Yes.
I think our internet should.
I think it's telling you it's time for you to go for the day. Thank you so much for being with us today. That was a really profound conversation for me.
Yeah.
Gotta go back and. Can you hear us?
All right. I'm good. Last try.
Yes.
I think going back to your previous clients and saying, hey, I want to make a video about your home selling experience with me and why it was great. 3 tips they would give you is so much better than admiring some other realtor and what they're doing.
Yeah.
And then again, with agent, if you're in the agent attraction business, going to the agents that you've attracted in your world and said, hey, what interested you in being in alignment with me? Like, why did you choose to collaborate with me? Getting their feedback is going to be so much better than listening to your buddy that's not a realtor that says, hey girl, you're killing it. Like, if I ever become an agent, you're going to be my mentor, right? Like, because the feedback from the opposite audience isn't good feedback. It's actually the worst. And so I think it's soliciting advice from the people that you actually want to do business with, helping you tell your story that way, moving forward in the coming economy. Call your home buyers and say, hey, what scares you about the coming economy? And then make a video about it. Like, call agents and say, hey, what are you freaked out about moving forward? And they're going to tell you, and then make a video about it. I wouldn't make agent-centric videos for clients, and I wouldn't make client-centric videos for agents, because if you cross-pollinate your crowds like that, you'll end up making content that the wrong person cares about.
Gotcha. That makes total sense.
This was a really good call today. Thank you for being with us. So much knowledge, very profound. For me, it's funny. Everything always lands in your lap at the right time. And last night, like I said, I was on the phone with a friend, and I've done this a really long time, and I hung up the conversation. My last thing I said to him was, I'm going to go get a book on Audible about confidence today, because I'm in a new space and I'm feeling not confident in it, so just know, if you're listening, it doesn't matter if you've been in this business 2 minutes or 25 years. It's you got to get in that discipline, that action, to be able to really propel yourself forward. So that was very profound for me. Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, guys, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it. I value, Lindsay, your collaboration, and looking forward to getting to know others. And I'm just so grateful for your mission. I think what you guys are doing is amazing. I think it's the most worthwhile endeavor on earth is to empower female entrepreneurship, because female entrepreneurship is the future. Like, it's the whole thing. And if we can get confidence instilled around that principle, I think that it'll be a very worthwhile endeavor. So I appreciate what you guys are doing.
Well, we thank you for your time, and we'll see you soon. See everybody next week.
Thanks, guys.
Angela and Lindsay would love to receive your real estate referrals in Colorado. Connect with the Homegirls on social media at The Real Homegirls Podcast.